Well, thank you very much. I want to start this Montclair City Council to order. And we will begin with our invocation, the Pledge of Allegiance. And I will allow our city clerk to announce those two individuals. And I just want to state this. Let's remember the folks, our residents, our citizens who are in Florida, who are suffering as a result of the hurricane. And obviously there's loss of life, there's loss of property, there's residents in the hospitals. So let's remember them in our prayer, along with those who also suffered in South Carolina.
Tonight's invocation will be led by Pastor Josh Matlock of Bethany Baptist Church and the Montclair Police Department chaplain. And then the pledge will be led by Councilmember Martinez.
Look to you, and Lord, is in difficult times when we do see tragedy like what has gone on in Florida, and Puerto Rico, Cuba, and South Carolina, so much devastation. We do look to you, Lord, and we seek you. We seek your wisdom. We seek your comfort and your help in all of that. And so we pray for all of our fellow Americans and others that are struggling this time. We pray that you would watch over them and comfort them and help them to rebuild and repair their lives. And for those who have lost lives, Lord, we pray for their families, and we pray for your comfort in their lives. Lord, as there is so much to be concerned about as we look in the world, teach us, Lord, to be thankful. And we have a lot to be thankful for. And tonight, Lord, I thank you for our city. I thank you for this wonderful place that we have to serve. For all of those, Lord, here tonight and in this city that are in positions of service to this community, Lord, I pray that you would bless us and help us to lead this city with seeking justice, Lord, walking humbly, loving mercy as we pursue what you have called us to do in all of our individual places. Keep us safe, watch over the city, we pray. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. And I apologize for forgetting Puerto Rico. Well, thank you for mentioning that. Go ahead.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, can we please have roll call?
Lopez?
Here.
Councilmember Martinez?
Here.
Councilmember Johnson?
I'm here.
Mayor Pro Tem Rue?
Present.
Mayor Dutre?
Here.
Thank you.
At this time, it's public comments, and it's an opportunity for members of the public to speak on an item that's, an item that's on the agenda, or if they wish to speak on one of the consent calendar business items, they can announce at this time. You will have 5 minutes. If you're on Zoom, you just hit the indicator to speak, the raise flag or raise hand, and if you're on a phone, you would star 9. So, Andrea, do you have any speakers?
Yes, we have Ruby Long from Supervisor Kurt Hagman's office on Zoom.
Okay. And Ruby's right
Good
there.
evening.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Once again, I just wanted to make a couple of announcements on the events that are coming up. So the reminder is the first one for our shredding event on October 15th. That one is from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. It's going to be at the Ontario Police Department. It will be free of charge. So, take all your documents that you don't want to throw them in the trash, and get them shredded. You can pre-register for that event at sbcshredding.eventbrite.com, and that'll save you time from having to fill out all the paperwork when you get there. So that's a good thing to do. And then also we have the Veterans Claims event. That is November 9th. That's going to be at our Chino Hills district office. And that is from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we'll have County Veteran Service officers there that will answer any questions about existing claims, conduct benefit assessments, complete claim forms, issue a San Bernardino County Veterans ID card. And for that, we need you to bring your DD Form 214. All services are provided free of charge, and we will also be providing lunch for the veterans. And I will be sending both of these event flyers to the city clerk so that you guys can post up on your site as well.
Great.
And that's it.
Appreciate
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Our next speaker.
Thank you. Next is Juliet Orozco from Seroptopus, Montclair, and Inland Valley.
Hello.
Hello. Good evening, Mayor, City Council, City Manager, and staff. My name is Juliet Orozco, and I'm the Vice President of an organization, Seroptopus, Montclair of Inland Valley. Seroptopus is a global volunteer organization that provides women and girls with access to the education and training they need to achieve economic empowerment. Our years of experience working with women and girls have taught us that education is the key to unlocking economic empowerment of the world's women and girls. When women and girls are educated, they have opportunity, choice, and power to make healthy decisions for themselves and their families. As this year's Live Your Dream chair, I would like to share that women and girls we service are some of the most courageous, powerful, and inspiring people you will ever meet. Each and every one of them is a superhero. And we are honored to share their stories. Seroptopus Awards are 3 to 5 winners. We choose 3 to 5 winners a year to help with school, books, supplies, and anything they need economically. We are proud of the program, and we are excited to see who our award winners will be this year. This year's Live Your Dream website has been open and to women and girls who are the head of household attending college. The deadline to apply is November 15th, 2022. If you know anyone who is in need, please encourage them to apply. I have left flyers, and I also left some with the city clerk. Encourage them to apply, and the link and information are on the flyer that I have left with you. Thank you, and thank you for your time.
Well, thank you very much, Julia, on this very important project you're doing. All right, next speaker, please.
All right, next is Arnold San Miguel from the Southern California Association of Governments.
Welcome to Montclair, Arnold.
Good evening, Mayor Dutre and members of the council. Good evening. I'm Arnold San Miguel, Regional Affairs Officer from Southern California Association of Governments, and I cover San Bernardino County and Western Riverside County for SCAG. And as you may know, the mayor sits on SCAG's Transportation Committee, dealing with transportation issues that make recommendations to our regional council every month. It's been a while because of COVID, have not been out, so just trying to make my rounds when I can to different city council meetings, and I was able to come tonight, so thank you for letting me take just a few moments, and just want to make a couple of quick announcements, if I may. So just to let you know, on December 1st, SCAG will be having our 13th edition of our celebrated Southern California Economic Summit in downtown Los Angeles at the Sheraton Grand. This year's theme is resourcing the region. Southern California is rich in both natural and economic resources. We lead the way financially, and with a major influx of anticipated state and federal funding to come to the region, we still see a growing need for improvement in workforce development and education. So we encourage you to join us, along with Southern California's business and civic leaders, to assess the status of the region's economy and for keep defining strategies to keep our region strong. So don't wait to register. Early bird registration is $125 until October 28th. And as always, elected officials and city managers are able to attend for free. So just encourage you to attend the Economic Summit. That's in first Thursday in December. Second, quick notice: at this Thursday's regional council meeting and at John's Transportation Committee meeting, we will be asking for authorization to release the notice of preparation for the draft program environmental document report for the Connect SoCal. That's for the plan that goes from 2024 to 2050. So this is a great time to start monitoring what kind of comments you may want to make on the long-range plan. We are currently operating under the 2016-2040 plan. If you don't like the way things look in 2040 in that plan, this is a great time to weigh in on this document. Really encourage you to do that. And then finally, October 5th is California Clean Air Day. So I got to participate as a working group in the Inland Empire Group. If you have not taken your pledge for the California Clean Air Day, every one of us can do our part for clean air. Would encourage you to do that at the California Clean Air Day website. Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. Good evening. Thanks, Edward.
Oh, great. Thank you very much, Arnold, for that nice presentation. Okay, next speaker, please.
I think that's it.
Great. We will now go down to consent calendars. It's pretty short. If there's no items to be removed, can I get a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion for the consent calendar as presented.
Okay, we have first by Mr. Rue, second by Mr. Lopez. Can I get an electronic vote? There it is. All right. And that's adopted 5-0. Next item is a business item. Consider adoption resolution 22-3380. This is for an exception to the 108-day waiting period pursuant to California Government Code to authorize to hire David Taylor into a part-time temporary retired and unit position of police officer. Any questions regarding this business item? If not, can I get a motion? Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
I'll make a motion for the item as presented.
I'll second.
Mr. Rue first and Ms. Johnson second. And there is electronic vote. Perfect. And we got that out of the way. And then the next item is response and filing. Consider receiving and filing response to the City Council inquiry regarding commercial cannabis, community benefit funding, and social equity programs. This is an item that was brought to the City Council where we had the discussion of placing the two measures on the ballot this coming November. Direct the staff to bring back a staff report regarding the community benefits program and how the cannabis, if it's adopted and the city adopts the ordinance and there's revenue coming in from cannabis, how those funds could be applied towards community benefit. Any questions on the staff report? No questions?
Are we not going to do a presentation,
No.
Mr. Mayor?
Unless you want a presentation. Do you want a presentation?
City manager doesn't look like he was going to do such.
Well, I'm ready to do it if the council wants. Usually the process with response to council inquiries is that staff responds to questions that the council may have. But if you want a presentation on it, I'd be more than happy to make one.
And it was me that, so go ahead, Ed. I asked Ed about presentations and questions. I decided to go with questions first. But go ahead and do that presentation.
Very good, Mr. Mayor. As you indicated at the August 1st, 22 meeting of the City Council, request was made to provide information related to community benefits funding programs supported by donations from commercial cannabis businesses, should the City Council decide to go down that road. Council members also expressed interest in social equity programs. The information provided in the agenda report that is before you is responsive to the City Council inquiry related to this matter. Montclair does not currently have in place, as you know, a commercial cannabis program. However, at the November 8th, 2022 general municipal election, Montclair voters will be considering a commercial cannabis business tax, as well as the potential legalization of commercial cannabis businesses in the city of Montclair. Following the outcome of the electorate's decision, the council may be asked to consider adoption of a ordinance to license various types of commercial cannabis businesses to operate in the city of Montclair. Montclair's draft commercial cannabis business ordinance number 19-982 contains elements of a community benefits funding program, as well as social equity components. The draft ordinance provides for staff development of the guidelines for both of those programs, with terms incorporated into licensing agreements between the city and each of the licensees. So while the ordinance itself doesn't flesh out what the provisions of those programs would be, that would be part of establishing the regulatory process again, as well as developing the respective agreements with any operators that the city would be approving. Features of both programs are presented on pages 45 through 48 of the agenda packet. The Community Benefits Program for Montclair could potentially use the Community Activities Commission as an oversight agency for distribution of community benefit funds. As you're well aware, the CAC already conducts that on behalf of the city through the annual allocation through the budget process that the City Council makes to the CAC for that purpose. The CAC conducts interviews, solicits individual charitable organizations and nonprofit agencies throughout serving the Montclair community to submit requests for funding through that program. A city-sponsored community benefits fund program would be voluntary and would provide applicants points based on a weighted merit scale that considers the quality of their respective community benefits plan, including the fiscal amount of their contributions, which may be based on a percentage of gross receipts. As indicated in the agenda report, a well-defined community benefits program would target a number of things, including community events, including fairs, after-school activities, youth-oriented programs, sports programs, and school programs, including school athletic programs, school clubs, music, and fine arts programs. Homeless programs would be another area that would be considered under that process. Senior center programs, including programs related to senior living facilities, would also be an area that would be considered for funding under the program, as well as parks and recreation programs and charitable and nonprofit programs and activities. All of these would, of course, need to be directed exclusively to the City of Montclair. Social equity programs would include submission of a fair works compensation plan. That plan would incorporate schedules of fair and livable wages, as well as benefits that would be paid to each of the prospective employees of that particular applicant if they should receive a license from the city. A social equity program which would be designed to encourage participation in licensed commercial cannabis businesses by people from communities disproportionately impacted by cannabis prohibition and enforcement programs, local hiring preferences, and work retention programs. With respect to the City Council's questions regarding community benefits programs as operated by other agencies in relation to their respective commercial cannabis programs, the agenda report does include descriptions of programs in the cities of Pomona, Claremont, Santa Ana, San Bernardino, and Corona. And of the surveyed agencies, the Pomona program appears to be the best featured program as it relates to community benefit funding programs and activities. In relation to the social equity comparative analysis, the agencies that were part of that same survey group were again examined in relation to their social equity programs, in relation to their commercial cannabis programs, and the agenda report does include the current status of social equity programs in the cities of Pomona, Claremont, San Bernardino, Oakland, and Santa Ana. All of those agencies have minimal social equity programs. Only the city of Santa Ana has a viable program, and that is discussed at length in the agenda report. And staff will be pleased to respond to council questions regarding those programs in those respective cities, as well as what we currently are envisioning in relation to the city of Montclair. As relation to the fiscal impact, receiving and following the response to city council inquiry incurs no fiscal impact to the city's general fund. Staff's recommendation is that city council receive and file the response to city council inquiry. And again, staff is available to respond to any questions you may have.
Okay, do we want, Andrea, is there someone who wants to speak on this item? I see a hand raised by Mark
Yes,
Ramos,
someone
excuse
in
me.
Zoom does have their hand raised.
Okay, let's take Mark Ramos, and we'll give him, if Mark is there. You there, Mark?
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mark. Go ahead, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. I appreciate the time. I'm actually at home on 2 Zoom meetings at the moment. So I've got an ear pod and an earbud in my ear. So forgive me.
Are you watching the football game?
No, actually on a San Fernando Valley meeting, and I've got this one. But I guess it's the beauty of Zoom, right? You can be in 2 places at once.
Yes. Go ahead.
But I guess, look, I had a couple questions that I wanted to ask is, I know that you've laid out here sections of the ordinance. Is the ordinance available? I think you said you had made some changes to it, Mr. City Manager. So is the ordinance available for us to see? Because, while I appreciate you laying all of this out, and I'm making no aspirations in a negative connotation here, sometimes what's important is what comes before and what comes after. You talk about the local hire, but I don't see any kind of real substance applied to it. So that's why I'm like, is there a way for us to pick up the ordinance, to take a look at it? Community benefits programs, I think are wonderful. I know I've spoken before about Pomona's ordinance and how they have done it. I would encourage the council, so you don't have nonprofits competing against each other for funding, that just have folks submit as to what they're doing. I think would be easy, because otherwise you end up with a competition of nonprofits and charitable organizations competing against each other. And if they have some influence over council, that can be detrimental, or actually possibly even lead to a lawsuit. Because I don't know if you've been following the LA Times articles recently, there is a lot of talk about influence from applicants and lobbyists. And so the best thing, in my opinion, what you can do with the council is to wall yourself off from any kind of interviews as council. Leave it up to staff. You guys develop the ordinance, put all the safety protocols in place, protect yourself, protect the city. I noticed that you mentioned the Pomona ordinance here. I really do like that you pointed out, sir, that the Pomona ordinance, that it's like within a half mile. I do believe that is the deficiency in the ordinance. It should be citywide, wherever you can kind of spread the money out to help folks. I know PUSD, as you listed, did not refused to accepting the money, but Steezy, their check that they donated actually went to I believe it's a magnet school. I believe it's iPoly there, which is a county school. So there are other ways to help educational organizations. In Pomona, the social equity component there was all of the fees for the license were waived. So there actually was a social equity component in Pomona. Social equity is one of the most complex things that you'll run across. I don't believe anybody has done it correct. It is extremely complex, and there are a lot of competing interests. So slow and steady wins the race on social equity, in my opinion. Do a lot of intake from community groups and shareholders and stakeholders on that issue would be my ask of you. I guess really, I appreciate you laying all this out. And I believe that in the original ordinance, sir, if I read it correctly, like the city manager does the first intake and kind of hits pass or go, pass or fail. If that is the same, or that, if I may, correct me if I'm wrong, but if that was in the ordinance, I would really, really caution you against that, because this is an extremely competitive process, and I would encourage you to create the most competitive process possible. But it also opens you up for a lawsuit. If one person has a lot of power invested in them in the selection process, you're really, really leaving yourself liable for litigation. And this is a litigation-happy industry. These folks will sue over anything in the process that they don't feel is right, and it can really bind you up and slow you down. So I would encourage that, again, develop the process, wall yourselves off, direct staff to do the process. I think a lot of this is still in its infancy. I look forward to continuing the conversations. Mr. Starr, I appreciate you, all of your work on this. And again, I would love to just be helpful in any way we possibly can. I think, again, I am not here to advocate for any one applicant. I do not care who the applicants are. To me, it's all about a process. It's about establishing a process that benefits not just your city and its residents and the workers in the city, but also the communities, surrounding communities, or those who may actually look to go forward. Because it is really important, in my opinion, that this whole region have somewhat of a same standard. That way you don't have cities kind of competing against each other in a so-called race to the bottom. So again, I would love to partner with staff, Mr. Starr, partner with you, just continue to have conversations. I think we all have good intentions here to come up with the best possible ordinance possible for the city of Montclair and its residents, and for those that would work in this industry in the city. But again, I know a lot of this is infancy, but I guess I go back. I'm going to end with my original question. Is this ordinance available for us to pick up at City Hall to examine? Because again, you lay out some areas here, but a lot of it is, and I'll just go through the local hire. It says just provides local hire preferencing programs, but it doesn't really give a whole lot of context or meat to what is stated here. So we would like to go through it, because I think you said last meeting it had been updated. So we would like to go through it and kind of come back with some findings, and to hopefully, again, in partnership, to create the best possible ordinance. Again, I thank you for your time. I really, really appreciate all of your efforts on this. And I wish you all a very safe night. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Question?
in response to the question, the ordinance is available online. I believe the last update to it occurred around 2019. It certainly requires significant update because laws have changed in relation to the state of California. In addition, the recitations have significantly changed because of the changes in administration. And so we will be making significant revisions to that ordinance. We will also consider an abbreviated ordinance such as the ones that are popular among cities that are introduced by HDL, although we continue to think that our ordinance is much more comprehensive and responsive to the intentions and requirements of the City Council. But the ordinance is available online, but I would not go necessarily by that ordinance as the final product because, as I've indicated, we intend on making significant modifications to it, although the ordinance does reflect some conversation that was had with Mr. Ramos back 4 years ago, and some of those changes were incorporated, or most of those changes were incorporated to the ordinance. But even there, we would be updating it to reflect current standards in relation to what we perceive the direction we want to go now in relation to community benefits programs and social equity programs. It's our intent to add significantly more meat to each of those categories so that we can reflect the interests and intents of the City Council.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Rue.
Yes, in regard to what Mr. Ramos is asking, at least the ordinance we have online could be a starting point for him, correct?
Yes, that is correct. And if it's not available online, but I believe it is, we will certainly make a copy available to him here at City Hall.
Because I think it's important that, you know, if he is engaged with us many times on this issue, if he can see specifically the ordinance in writing and understand that there may be changes, there will be changes, but at least it's a way for him to access this and look at it. And I think that's important as far as transparency. I also like with the Pomona ordinance, the way it protects the workers. This is a very different industry. The workers need to be protected. There have been many cases in the news where workers were paid with product and told you can go sell the product. Those workers then risked their lives just basically driving around with this because to some people it is very valuable. So in the ordinance in Pomona, which Mr. Ramos helped write, it did include ways to protect workers, make sure their wages and benefits were good, and that it was not, as he said, a race to the bottom. We're still dealing with an industry that in the city of LA, which has approved this, by their own statistics, over 60% of the marijuana stores are illegal. They shut one down, another one pops up, and they've legalized it. So we need to look at all of that. I really like the 30% local hire. To me, that's a hard, fast line. If we're going to have this, we need to make sure we hire locally. Our residents who may wish to work in this industry should have that opportunity. I don't want to see a lot of these jobs going to professionals who come from other cities and they're here today and gone tomorrow. This is for our city then if we're doing this, and I like the local aspect. I do like the way Pomona is doing the charitable organizations rather than just having it everybody competing. It's much more specific. I think those are important things to consider. I know there are some who don't like the Pomona ordinance. I happen to know several of the people who are involved in writing that, and it's not just a boilerplate from any one entity. They took their time and thought about this. It's 28 pages versus about 300 pages with ours, and quite often the more pages you have to something, the more opportunity there is for litigation. I see this in my world with legislation. They have bills that become 500-600 pages long, and they're more open to interpretation and being misconstrued than the ones that are 2 pages long. So that's all I have at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Lopez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Piggybacking on what Mr. Ramos had brought up regarding the availability of the ordinance. Now, Mr. City Manager, you stated that, sorry, I hit my screen. You stated that the ordinance is online and the last time it was updated was 2019, correct?
Yes, it was probably around 2019, early 2020 at the earliest, at the latest.
So then what is presently online does not include the two sections referenced on page 46, 4.07100, and, well, they're both subsection 10 and subsection 11?
Yes, those are included in the existing ordinance.
Okay, so then, since 2019, that has these provisions that you state, that are in the staff report, then really nothing has been, nothing new or of substance since we have last discussed this a month or two ago, I believe August, has actually happened to address a local hiring concern or a worker retention program. What I'm saying is there anything new? And from what you're just telling me, there hasn't been because these two sections are already included in the 2019 draft.
Yes, that's correct. Nothing new has been added since then.
Okay. That's concerning to me because being the new kid on the block here, one, I have yet to see a copy of the ordinance. I was sitting on the other side of this dais at the back wall when this was first presented and wanted to see it. I know that it is purportedly 300 pages of draft, and to your credit, Mr. City Manager, I will give you the credit that you put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in that document, you and staff. However, you had stated a bit ago that you would be making, quote, significant changes to be made to it. You will scale it, you will add more meat to certain provisions. I was kind of hoping you would say that you'd be scaling it back. And the reason why I say that is Pomona's ordinance is 44 pages long, actually 45, but the 45th page are signature attestation, so those don't count. They're 44 pages long. And speaking with three folks in the industry, Pomona is the only city in LA County to date that has not been subject to a lawsuit since it's been implemented. Right. So their ordinance in their 44 pages has stood the test of time. I think it would be wiser for us to scale our document back and not add significant meat to certain provisions, quote unquote. That's my concern, and that's what I was kind of hoping this report would have said, because I would like to see what changes to address some of the concerns that have been brought up the past 2 months would be addressed. Like my colleague, Mr. Rue, stated, I would like to see a 30% local hire, at least in this report, and something spelled out as opposed to general language providing a local hiring preference program, provides for worker retention programs, because this is a report that no doubt will serve as a basis for future discussion, changes, and meat to the ordinance. Regarding that 30 local hire, though, for those in the public that are wondering what that 30% local hire would entail, please do not assume that it's going to be 20 or 30-year-olds that'll predominantly make up the hire. While it might make up some of it, no doubt, there are entities and marijuana businesses that have within them 60 and 70-year-old women and men working in those establishments, and they are similar. Well, some of them are actually the ones I've talked to are former Target employees in their communities, and the reason why they have opted to go for employment at these establishments is they get consistent hours, consistent benefits, and they're working in a safe environment, very safe. Some of it is even booties, hairnets, gloves, just to keep the product from not being contaminated in a pure form, but it also protects them. And this was even done prior to COVID. So the 30% local hire requirement is no doubt a good thing, and I'm glad to see that provision in. I suppose I'd like to see something proposed as to the teeth of those two provisions. And I was going to ask with respect to community benefits programs, but I'm going to rely heavily on these 6 words or 7 words, but is not limited to the following. In the report on page 46, It lists suggested programs and entities that could qualify, but it is not limited to that, because I don't want it to solely be limited to those that are listed in the bullet point items. Again, the initial report for Pomona, their ordinance is 44 pages long. They do have 2 4-page subsequent ordinances that help spell out some of the application provisions or whatnot, but nonetheless, even those addendums to the original ordinance are 4 pages long, not subsequent 100, 200, 300-page documents. One member of the industry told me that with the 300-page document, it makes a lot of them nervous to want to possibly do business in the city. Possibly. Not that they won't, but possibly. And the phrase that they told me was, and this is not meant as a term of endearment to the city from their statement, is that there goes Montclair again, expletive thing up. In other words, there goes Montclair, expletive the thing up. And I thought, well, that's pretty profound for someone in the business community in this industry to say that. And if that's the connotation, then let's try to correct the connotation, even if we disagree with the person's perception. And again, they were mentioning the overregulation in their perception of the 300-page document. I really do think that we would dissuade a lot of folks in the industry from perhaps wanting to broach the idea of submitting an application to do business here. I would like as many applicants, even if we just allowed, like Pomona did, 4 or 8 entities, we should have 50, 60 applicants applying, and let the best, let the chips fall where they may and let the best get them. I'm just nervous of it, and I appreciate staff time on this in response to the discussion we had in August. I know that I had asked for some of this. I appreciate the report. I just think that it didn't quite go the direction I was hoping, and I would hope that it would in the future. But thank you for your time nonetheless.
Mr. Mayor, if I may respond, I did say that staff would look at an abbreviated ordinance. We would consider looking at the Pomona ordinance and other much smaller ordinances. I will say that the Pomona ordinance is a boilerplate ordinance. It was developed by BB&K. It's the ordinance that they provide to all of their client cities. Certainly, each city makes some modifications and amendments to it, but it is a boilerplate ordinance. The city's ordinance was developed under the instruction of the city council that they wanted a well-regulated program if they were to consider a commercial cannabis businesses operating in the city of Montclair. At the time, you were looking at a business that was generally an illegal business that was trying to make a transition into the legitimate business world. So the city council's perspective at that time was that they wanted to make certain if the door was open, that the businesses were well regulated and that there would not be the opportunity for some of these to be charlatan businesses that came in representing more on the black side of the market as opposed to businesses that were truly seeking to enter into the legitimate marketplace. So that ordinance was developed in response to what the city council wanted at that time. As far as it being overly regulated, it's not overly regulated. The state of California establishes all of the regulations. We chose to take those regulations and amend them to make them as flexible as we can for the city of Montclair. If you don't do that in your ordinance, then you leave it to the hands of the state of California's ordinance, or rather their laws, and you have to follow those laws unless you make exceptions with your own regulatory structure. That is what our ordinance did. It sought to take that program and shape it so that it fit the Montclair community. If the council wants to go back into a different direction and rely primarily on the state laws and let the state laws be the guidance, we're certainly fine with that. And that is what the Pomona ordinance is. That is what almost every other ordinance is that is in existence. As far as businesses saying that, once again, there's Montclair Xing things up, I will tell you this, that at the time that this ordinance was released, the top level commercial cannabis businesses in the state of California reached out to the city of Montclair and said that this was the only city that knew what they were doing, knew what they were talking about, and that they welcomed the opportunity to come to the city of Montclair. These are ordinances, these are companies that operate high-end Apple-style stores in San Francisco and Las Vegas and other communities. These are the kinds of businesses you want to come to City of Montclair. A business that says that we are Xing things up is a business you probably don't want in the City of Montclair because they don't like the regulatory restrictions, because they want to operate in a loose environment, and they probably have some associations with businesses that you don't want in the City of Montclair. So I appreciate and respect their opinion about our ordinance, but at the same time, if it's the intent and purpose of this council to make certain that you get the most legitimate businesses in the City of Montclair in relation to an industry that frankly is still trying to make the leap from the illegal marketplace to the legal marketplace, then you want to make certain that you have a regulatory structure that guides how these businesses are going to operate in your city. Our ordinance not only reflects the guidelines of the state of California, amended to reflect what we need to make them operational and functional in the City of Montclair, but it goes well beyond what the state of California has done by introducing creative concepts. So for example, our ordinance even addresses vending machines, which no ordinance in the state of California addresses, and not even the state of California addresses vending machines. And in our ordinance, we respond to any business that might want to introduce vending machines by saying that until there is a system that is available in vending machines that can verify either through voice print, eye print, or some other form of recognition of the individual and their age, those vending machines would not be permitted in the City of Montclair. There are plenty of commercial cannabis businesses who would like to go down that route, but they're not permitted. The vending machines are not permitted in this community where they might be in other communities simply because you need to be able to verify that a person is 18 years of age or older. That's something that is not in any other ordinance in the state of California. It's something that we creatively came up with. Same thing with a number of other areas, including where you might have areas within a commercial cannabis business where you can have lounge areas. Lounge areas are becoming popular. Our ordinance restricted the lounge areas at that time when it was developed because of the inability of the California Highway Patrol and other police departments in the state of California to be able to detect whether an individual leaving a lounge at a commercial cannabis business has a certain level of current active THC in their system. A person can smoke cannabis 3 weeks ago, and if you do an evaluation on them under current equipment, they would still have a THC level in their system that would indicate that they are driving while impaired, when in fact they may not be impaired because the last time that they smoked cannabis was 3 weeks ago. Until a system is in operation in the state of California that CHP and other police departments can use that can detect accurately that an individual currently consumed cannabis, our ordinance prohibited lounge areas in commercial cannabis businesses. They're becoming very popular. And I'm not even saying that we shouldn't consider that as part of a next generation of our ordinance. But those systems that are available to the police department and the CHP to still detect whether a person who has recently consumed cannabis has an unacceptable level of THC in their system, or it's somebody who smoked it 3 weeks ago, the systems still do not detect that. Those are not referenced in, certainly it's not referenced in the Pomona ordinance, and it's not referenced in many of the other ordinances in the state of California, and certainly for those that permit lounges, it's not referenced in those. We address the lounge issue in our ordinance, but we also address why it's not being allowed, or at least at the time that the ordinance was developed. So we can scale it down. I don't have a problem scaling it down. I understand that a 300-page ordinance, and that is only one of the ordinances. There are 3 ordinances related to the city's management of cannabis in the community. One of the ordinances deals with the zoning, where the businesses would be allowed to locate, and the other one deals with smoking. where you can smoke cannabis. And these ordinances that Pomona and other cities have, they don't address that issue. They don't address when and where you can smoke cannabis. Cannabis can only be smoked under certain conditions in certain areas and not in the open public. You can consume edibles, but you cannot be smoking cannabis while you're driving. You can't consume edibles while you're driving either. But you can consume edibles in the public, but you cannot smoke in the public. And so there are a companion series of ordinances that address all of these issues. Again, we're more than happy to revise the ordinance, and we already intended on revising the ordinance to make changes to all of the issues that have changed, not only in the industry, but by state law. But I think that our ordinance was well ahead of all of these stakeholders in the program because we addressed concepts of cannabis consumption and business operations that weren't even part of state law or other ordinances. Again, we're more than happy to revise it though and bring it down to a much smaller number, but you have to recognize that if we do that, we are totally reliant then on the laws of the state of California, and we have to follow those laws precisely if we don't build in the flexibility that is necessary for our municipal code.
Great, thank you very much, Ed. I want to say this, first of all, can staff provide a copy of the draft to all 5 council members? I have one in my office, I don't actually need one, but if the other members don't have a copy, you have a copy, Councilman Johnson, so then 3 copies then.
We'll do that.
We'll provide 3 copies with the exception of myself and Councilmember Johnson. I want to say this, this cannabis ordinance, if the voters adopt the 2 measures on the ballot, it's going to be a lot of work for this council to go through, and I would ask that staff provide us sound recommendations, obviously looking at the Pomona ordinance and sound recommendations. But I'm also ask us to staff that as we are developing this draft ordinance or amendments to the ordinance, et cetera, that you pose a lot of questions to the council. I think that's very important. And ask us, here's option A, B, and C perhaps. Here's our recommendation. Council, what do you want to do on these different sections as we go through the ordinance? Do you understand that, Ed?
I do.
I think that would be very important to do. And really, what we're really here today is benefits to community benefits that we addressed, and also the social equity. And I think, again, if we go back to social equity, the local hiring, again, I want sound recommendations from staff and pose questions to the city council. Appreciate that. In regards to benefits, one of the things I want to do, I know it's on the agenda, but I would like to see if at the mid-year budget review, if we can discuss doubling the community benefits amount. And I want to see an emphasis on the additional funds going towards our youth in Montclair, such as sports, school activities, other youth activities here in Montclair, anything that's benefiting our youth. I'd like to see that we can allocate additional funds towards that. And I know we have the Community Activities Commission that works on that, and along with Marshall staff. So perhaps that mid-year budget review, we'll discuss it at that time, and then how we can approve it and then implement that new portion of funding going forward. Again, that's just a request from staff. And so with that, this is a receive and file item. And with that, I'm going to move on to communication. And I'm going to start with Marcia Richter, who is the Human Services Director, Assistant City Manager, Human Services Director. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. I'm happy to be able to give a full report today that we have a lot of activities going on, and this just covers October. So I want to mention our Youth Basketball League is back, and registrations are open through this Thursday, October 6th, or until each division is filled. You can contact our Recreation Center for more information. The Human Services Department will celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month with a folklorico performance by the Montclair After School Program, MAP, from Kingsley and Mission Elementary Schools. It'll be at Montclair Place Center Court this Saturday, October 8th from 5 to 7. MAP students from Serrano Middle School will be hosting a Mexican tissue paper flower craft project as well. So we hope you can stop by, see the performance, or make a paper flower. Next week, on Wednesday, October 12th, from 7 to 8:30, the 2022 Candidates Forum will take place here in the council chambers and is sponsored by the Community Activities Commission and the Montclair Chamber of Commerce. The forum will be filmed and streamed live on the city's YouTube channel for those who want to watch from home. The event will also be broadcast on Montclair's public access channel every evening at 7 p.m. beginning on Monday, October 17th through Election Day, Tuesday, November 8th. Questions can be submitted in advance on our website. In-person attendees will be able to submit questions, and due to the limited time, not all questions submitted may be asked. All mayor and city council candidates have been invited to participate. On Tuesdays, October 18th, and again on November 1st, San Bernardino County will be providing free flu vaccines and COVID-19 vaccines and boosters in our community center from 9:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. No insurance is required. Appointments are encouraged, but walk-ins will also be accepted. You can pre-register at myturn.ca.gov. Flyers are available at the counter near the door, and more information is on our website. Montclair After School Program MAP will be hosting their annual Lights On After School event on Thursday, October 20th from 6:30 to 8:30 in our community center. The event will feature visual arts, dance, drama, and music created and performed by students from all of our 10 MAP sites. Any families in Montclair who may need some assistance with a food and toy basket this holiday season and meet our income guidelines are welcome to apply to our holiday food and toy basket program by appointment. You must have an appointment to apply and can schedule that by contacting our Recreation Center by Friday, October 21st. Finally, our Halloween Spooktacular will be on Saturday, October 29th from 5 to 8 p.m. at Montclair Place. Costume contest, games, a DJ, and other fun activities will be located outside near the pumpkin patch. This event is sponsored by the City of Montclair, Montclair Place, Burtech Waste Industries, West Coast Arborists, and the Women's Club of Montclair. We hope to see you there.
Great, thank you very much for that, and City Attorney, and thank you for all the activity you guys doing there. A lot of work, thank you. City Attorney.
Yes, I don't have nearly as much going on as the HS Director does, but I have two items on the agenda, both requesting the City Council to meet in closed session. The first one regarding a evaluation for the city manager, and the second to discuss pending litigation in the two matters indicated, Garcia versus Lopez and Fuentes versus Lopez.
Great, thank you.
That's it for me. Thank
City
you.
Manager.
No items.
First of all, I just want to recognize during the month of October, it's Ramadan. It's also Breast Cancer Awareness Month, the Filipino American History Month, the Italian American Heritage and Culture Month, the LGBT History Month, and also the Polish American Heritage Month. Just also want to state that I know three of us attended the ICSC Regional Conference in San Diego this past week, and I know we had a lot of good contacts at the booth. Obviously, Mike Diaz was there, and I know we had some interesting business come by and talk to us, and hopefully some of those will happen. I want to say one thing that I did not know this, I discovered. We had a firefighter who died in the line of duty. His name is Robert G. Anderson. He died in duty on July 16, 1977, and he has a plaque in front of the Fire Station 1. I've been on the City Council for 26 years, and this is the first I heard about this. Obviously, we did have a police officer that died in line of duty I was aware of, but I was not aware of this. So I kind of like to end in this meeting, the memory of Robert G. Anderson, who was a Montclair fire engineer. Finally, I just want to give you an update about the whole mess off the 10 freeway. I know Benson Avenue is closed, so I did talk to Ray Wolf, who's the Executive Director for San Bernardino County Transportation Authority. I'm hoping they can speed up the closure on Benson Avenue. We'll see. It is going to close again in February for another 8 weeks. The good news is that Central Avenue and Mountain Avenue and all the lanes should be open, including the turn lanes and the lane, that straight lane that's currently closed on both Central and Mountain. Those should be open this December. So that's the good news going forward. Obviously, Monte Vista will be in its current condition until 2024. So hopefully after March, all of Central will be open, all of Mountain will be open, and then Benson will be open, completely, and then we just have to deal with Monte Vista. So that's the good news going forward, and I'll start with Councilmember Martinez.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything to add tonight.
Councilmember Johnson.
All's quiet on the Johnson front.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Rue.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the only item I plan to bring up tonight, and you've touched a little bit on it, is the traffic situation. You are correct when you're saying about Benson being closed. It's put a tremendous amount of pressure on other streets, not just north, south, east, west. If you are traveling and you need to go to the east, San Antonio is also closed. If you are in our city, as I am, and you travel west to work, it is impossible to move on some of the streets. Central is a nightmare. Monte Vista is a nightmare. You almost have to find a way to get over to Mills and Claremont, and even that, in Montclair and Claremont, even that is difficult. I have seen now in the last few weeks, and I should have noted the time, 3 incidents. We're on Central Avenue. Our firefighters had to move their truck into the opposing lane in order to get down Central Avenue. That is dangerous. Central is horrific. On Saturday, and I noted the time, it was about 3:30. I was traveling southbound on Central, right near the mall. People could not get into the entrance where Lazy Dog is because traffic was backed up. The light that is green southbound at the freeway, it's red at the first light just below the freeway, so it's backing up traffic. The same thing is northbound. It's green northbound at the 10. Above the 10, it's red. It's backing up traffic. We have to solve this problem. I will tell you a real-world story again today. I left the opening, the ribbon cutting for Habitat for Humanity. Very nice event. Traveling northbound on Monte Vista. As I start to cross San Bernardino, the traffic is really backed up. Monte Vista, north of San Bernardino. I waited, and people in front of me were actually turning around and doing U-turns to go back to San Bernardino. That's illegal. I won't do that. I moved over as much as I could. I was able to turn right on Palo Verde. So I'm now traveling east. I couldn't go north on Central. Traffic is backed up. So I made another right on Central. Now I'm going south, all the way to San Bernardino. Then I have to make another right on San Bernardino and go to Mills Avenue, make another right, go north on Mills, and then a left onto Arrow so I could continue traveling to the west. This is unacceptable. Residents are complaining about it all the time, and businesses are complaining. They can't get into the Montclair Mall. Some of the businesses on Central, in the center that is just on the east, below the 10, some of those, they're complaining that people can't get in there. We need to look at this now. We can't wait. I realize, there's a little we can do, but we've got to start doing something. We need to, one, consider re-signalizing these areas to get people through. Christmas time is coming, and it's going to be very difficult at the mall. Number 2, once we are done, and this is something I've been talking about since 2017, we need to consider demand lights. I'm not buying any more. Oh, we're timed to the county. Oh, it's set for 35 miles an hour. And if you go 35, you'll make it. Well, that's dependent on the car in front of you isn't going 25 miles an hour. Or somebody hasn't sped through there and backed it up below. Demand lights work. There are state grants and federal grants for them, and we need to start pursuing that. It will move the traffic through this city. I take Arrow in the morning, and it's feeling the brunt of the closure at Benson, because people who might have used another way going north or the way they're traveling, it's very difficult. We can't continue backing up traffic. In the evening, if you travel southbound on Benson, a lot of people are going over to the east. They're using 7th and 8th, and that's backing up traffic. The other day, 7th Street was backed up to the point nobody could turn right onto 7th Street. We have to deal with this. And I realize this freeway is a regional issue, but I want you to consider something. Does anybody remember when they were doing all of this construction in the west side of LA on the 405? Guess what? They didn't have all of this. They took one weekend to take down one lane, did all of that, rebuilt the freeway. A couple weekends later, they took down the other lanes and rebuilt the freeway. We need to start thinking that way. This is really hurting business. Our public safety is being jeopardized. If you're an ambulance and you need to get around, you can't get through all that traffic. Even if everybody does what they're supposed to do and pull over, they can't. So we need to really look at this. This is getting very dangerous. And it's only a matter of time before somebody, unfortunately, it will happen, has a major accident. Thank you.
Councilman Lopez.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a listing of 3 items, but I'll scratch one off to make it just 2. The first one, because I do want to touch on traffic, because I've been getting some messages. I will address that in about 30 seconds. First item, I attended on October 1st, the Garden and Pumpkin Fest, the Fall Fest done by Chino Basin Water Conservation District, Monte Vista Water District, Cucamonga Valley Water, Inland Empire Resource Conservation District, or Center rather. From what I was told, close to 1,000 residents, not necessarily all Montclair, but from the region, attended the event here in Montclair in a 4-hour period, and I thought that was a great turnout. I know that when we left the house and exited the alley, I was blown away to know that parts of Helena, north of San Bernardino, the street was full of folks that parked and walking all the way down San Bernardino, close to Ramona, where this site is, as you know, just to attend the Fall Festival, bring their family. It was greatly attended, and it was a fun event, and I'm glad that it is back on. I know COVID shut it down for a year or 2, but it's back on, and the fact that the residents took advantage of it and showed up tells you that they missed it. So kudos to all the agencies that were involved. I know the mayor, I stepped out, so I know the mayor had told me that he brought some items up regarding traffic, as did Mayor Pro Tem Rue just now. I do want to bring up just another situation again, because I am getting messages from residents and even folks outside the city that drive in our city. Again, let me bring up Central Avenue first. And perhaps, Mayor, you can convey this to SBCTA, but it needs to be addressed again. Northbound Central, going under the 10, and if you choose to continue north, you happen to get the folks that are in the left-hand turn lane that is supposed to go to the freeway. Some of them continue north. There was some white striping indicating that they had to turn left onto the freeway, but that has since been, I guess it just faded away because it's gone. And I noticed that did cut down on some of that traffic, but now that it's gone, it needs to be repaved. But then we're having the same problem on Monte Vista northbound. If that could be looked into, that'd be greatly appreciated. Now, I don't know if this was specifically mentioned, but this will happen in 2 weeks just before our next council meeting, so I'm bringing it up. Montclair residents, be prepared. We will have a 55-hour freeway lane and ramp closure. It will start Friday, October 14th at 10 p.m. and last through Monday, October 17th at 5 p.m. What will be impacted is 3 lanes of westbound 10 from Monte Vista and going to approximately a half mile will be closed. 3 lanes starting at Monte Vista going westbound will be closed. 2 lanes will remain open, but nonetheless, traffic will be affected. As both my colleagues to my right and my left mentioned, Benson Avenue is closed. And just as a reminder to that, a portion of the eastbound and westbound I-10 shoulder over Benson was removed and is being rebuilt into a wider configuration. This work is scheduled to be completed in the summer of 2023, unless, of course, Mr. Mayor has some added change to that, which I might have missed. So that date could be altered depending upon some activities there. But nonetheless, folks, I know that this is a issue of growing pains for us. I know the area is changing. I know it's a big pain, and it's frustrating. It's a test of patience, really. That's what I've been calling it the whole time. And at times, it definitely is a test of patience for me in some of this traffic. I have no doubt almost been hit at least 5 times by folks that choose to cut in real quickly instead of using their blinker because they forget what lane they're in. They don't pay attention to signs that clearly say right turn only. They continue to go straight. They try to merge into traffic. It's ridiculous. I had stood at the corner of Palo Verde and Monte Vista on the southeast corner and observed northbound traffic approaching the 10 freeway and seeing the folks in that right-hand lane without any shame and sometimes with just arrogance that they own the road, force other folks over, blare on their horns when clearly they're the ones in violation. If Montclair PD could perhaps set up shop there, 30 minutes, I guarantee we'd probably get a lot of tickets, added money to the budget. But I think something needs to be done because it is a nightmare. And it's not our fault, folks. Bear in mind, the construction going around the freeway is not the fault of this city or any city along its path. Right. It is the county that has assumed the responsibility for that, and that's fine. But residents, please, the cities can only do so much for the time being. We will continue standing at the bully pulpit advocating for some changes or directional signals, lighting or whatnot. That's all we can do at this point. But for now, it is in the hands of the County Transportation Authority, and I'm sure they're doing the best they can, but I know it's frustrating. So with that, I am done, Mr. Mayor.
And I know SBCTA is doing the best they can as well. It's just a huge challenge because of construction. It's unfortunate they had to close Benson. There was an issue there too. I'm not going to go into details of that. Ed, I'm going to ask that staff can maybe look at the circulation out there and see if there's some improvements to be done. Can we put cones there in that Monte Vista right lane where people are cutting in? If there's some other areas that we think we can put in. I know that Sandbag is supposed to, SBCTA will look at signalization as well. The signals need to be adjusted, so I'm waiting for an answer back on that. Obviously, Ed, you've been involved in that email as well, but if staff can come back and then there's some other improvement, do you think it could be done and we can communicate that to SBCTA or we can do it as a city? Go ahead, Ed. It's your line.
Well, we'll certainly look at those issues, but the candlesticks that you're referring to is a problematic concern because you have traffic coming from opposite directions that need to cross those very lines as well. So the candlesticks simply are not feasible. We clearly understand how effective they would work if it weren't for the fact that you have other cross traffic that those candlesticks would interfere with. But we will certainly look at other issues. It's been an ongoing struggle. I give comment to Jim Diaz, who is our representative to SBCTA when they have their Thursday meetings every week, making recommendations and suggestions, but that's all we can do at this point is make those recommendations and suggestions, and if SBCTA does not feel that those recommendations are going to work for the project, then they don't follow up on that. But we will continue to do that, and we will look at other options, including looking at signalization issues and any other additional striping programs that we can undertake to try and relieve the problems.
And if there are recommendations, SBCs, I have to be aware of this. Okay, Ed? Thank you. All right, so with that,
real quick,
I'm
Mr.
going to,
Mayor, just a real quick question. Ed, the striping that was done at the Central and Freeway location indicating for folks to turn left, did city pay for that temporary striping, or did SBCTA pay for it?
No, SBCTA would have done that.
All right. I would say those candlesticks, I'm not recommending that at the Monte Vista and Palo Verde lane. I think striping indicating, showing that is probably our best bet because some folks will actually abide by it, hopefully.
okay. So at this time, we will go into closed session. Thank you. As far as closed session, we'll start with the lawsuits first, and then we'll do the performance evaluation afterwards. Do we understand that? We'll do litigation first, the two litigation matters first, and then we'll go into a performance evaluation.